dear delegates to the 2024 Science 20 Brazil, dear representatives of international science networks and organizations, dear governmental authorities, dear representatives of the G20 working groups and engagement groups, dear members of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences and representatives of the Brazilian scientific community, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, I have the honor to welcome you to Rio de Janeiro and to the S20 Summit to promote a close interaction between the Science 20 and the governments of our countries, and aiming for an effective contribution of the Science 20 to the G20 process. We invited to the opening ceremony of our meeting the Brazilian authorities responsible for the Sherpa track, the finance track, the G20 social, the funding agency for studies and projects, our FINEP, which is the governmental agency that generously sponsors this meeting, and the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. I initially had the honor to invite Ambassador Mauricio Carvalho Lírio, who is the Secretary for Economic and Financial Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil, and Brazil's G20 Sherpa, to address the audience. Ambassador Lírio, please, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, President of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, Professor Helena Nader, Your Excellency, Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, dear colleague Luis Fernandes, Your Excellency, President of FINEP, Celso Pancera, my dear colleague, Tatiana Beringer, Head of the Civil Society Dialogue of the Finance Track, honorable heads of delegation from S20 members, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to address you at this opening session of the G20 Summit, the engagement group that brings together science academies of G20 members and guests. Engagement groups play an essential role in enabling G20 to fulfill its goal to give voice and agency to actors beyond the executive branches of its members. For this reason, we proposed to G20 members last year a significant change in the way the G20 interacts with its engagement groups. Apart from the joint session we will have on the 4th of July, the day after, in 3 days' time, we are also organizing the G20 Social Summit to be held in Rio de Janeiro from the 14th to the 16th of November, close or back-to-back with our Leaders Summit. I am aware the schedule we proposed imposed a significant challenge for the organizers, and I appreciate your efforts in coming up with your recommendations so early in the year. The reason for that, and I have to be very clear about this, is that we are going to start to prepare the declaration of the leaders very soon. This Sherpa meeting that I'm going to have this week, throughout this week with my colleagues from G20, it's an initial meeting to start to discuss the structure of the declaration. We have already discussed this preliminarily, but we are going to have a further discussion on that. And of course, in order to be able to incorporate the recommendations of all the engagement groups, including Science 20, it's important to receive the recommendations as soon as possible. That's why we planned this presentation by all engagement groups during our Sherpa meeting this week here in Rio de Janeiro. Brazil assumed the G20 presidency on December the 1st, 2023. We will host around 130 meetings in all regions of Brazil, culminating in the Leaders Summit on November the 18th and 19th here in Rio de Janeiro. In fact, we have already done around 75 of the meetings. We have still a number of 55 meetings ahead. Brazil will be the third in a sequence of 4 developing countries chairing the group since the end of 2021. Following Indonesia in 2022 and India in 2023, it has now been our turn to bring development issues to the center stage. The purpose of the Brazilian presidency is to restore the agenda for development as the center of the agenda for G20. We know that we were a bit concerned with the centrality of geopolitical issues in the last years, but it's very important that we profit from the sequence of developing countries in order to bring back development to the center of the G20. As we are all aware, the world faces significant challenges. We encounter crises on multiple fronts, and they often aggravate each other. These include persistent hunger, poverty and inequality, armed conflicts with severe humanitarian consequences, widespread setbacks in living standards, inflation and debt vulnerabilities, high volatility in food and energy prices, and a climate crisis that is no longer a distant threat, but rather a present reality, a somber one. I could also add to this list growing trends to try to discredit science and spread misinformation, which can have catastrophic consequences. The solution to this challenge requires, in our view, more international cooperation, not less, which is not a trivial statement in a world marred by old and new geopolitical tensions. And while these crises affect us all, they do not affect us equally. Developing countries are the ones that bear the brunt, and within countries, it is the poorest that always suffer the most. As President Lula often argues, if we had to summarize the current global challenges in a single word, it would be inequality. Under the motto, building a just world and a sustainable planet, Brazil defined the following 3 general priorities for its G20 presidency. As you will notice, they align very well with the recommendations proposed by S20, the preliminary recommendations. First, the articulation of a global alliance against hunger and poverty. According to the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, around 735 million individuals currently face hunger, and 2.4 billion face moderate or severe food insecurity. Today, we have in the world around 150 million children up to 5 years old facing hunger. I had the honor to present these priorities in the General Assembly of the United Nations. And looking at the whole assembly, it's incredible to think that these 150 million kids below 5 that are facing hunger would constitute the 9th most populous country in the world. Only 8 countries are bigger than that in terms of population. To help reverse that course, Brazil created a G20 task force to launch a global alliance against hunger and poverty, bringing together the Sherpa and the finance tracks. The alliance will take concrete steps to mainstream a set of established domestic public policy instruments that proved successful in developing countries, including targeted cash transfers, school meal programs, support for family farming, single registry systems for low-income persons and families, and social security mechanisms. We know now, after 20, 30 years of the implementation of these kind of programs, that they are really effective to face hunger. And they build the long-term I would say, structures for overcoming the fragilities derived from underdevelopment. So now we have an experience based on the success of the cash transfer programs with conditionalities. Countries like Brazil, Bangladesh, and so many others have adopted them and were able to overcome hunger. The second priority is to articulate the G20 response to climate change. Humanity has only until the end of this decade to prevent the global temperatures from rising beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Many countries are already facing the tragic consequence of climate change. Brazil has witnessed the loss of over 150 lives in the tragic and unprecedented floods in the state of Rio Grande do Sul in the south of Brazil. Needless to say, the understanding we have of this situation, including early warnings that trace back to research conducted decades ago, came from scientists who bravely raised the flag and spoke alone for a long time until the other sectors of society started listening. Implementing the change we need regarding climate and the environment remains a challenge. But if not for our science, I have no doubt our current situation would be far worse. Third priority, concrete action and implementation of decisions bring me to the other priority of the Brazilian G20 president, to reinvigorate multilateralism and to promote the reform of global governance institutions. There is a growing perception that key international organizations such as the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Trade Organization, and the United Nations are in urgent need of reform. Only with a reinvigorated multilateral system can peace, stability, and sustainable development be attained. I cannot overemphasize the fact that the concentration of the discussions nowadays in the international agenda around geopolitical issues, because they are there, the conflicts are happening, I would say, diverts the attention and financial resources and, I would say, human resources from the main objective that should be at the center of the international agenda, that would be to promote development in the world. The fact that we are so much concentrated on geopolitical issues, inevitably because of the appearance of conflicts, is something that diverts our attention. The International Institute of Strategic Studies of London published this report stating that last year, with 187 conflicts around the world, we had a record number of conflicts in the last 3 decades. So it's appalling that we have a global governance that is not able to reduce the occurrence of conflicts and allow us to concentrate the attentions around development issues. Well, about the S20 priorities, I had some initial reports of your discussions. We are very much, I would say, encouraged by the quality and the importance of those recommendations. Regarding recommendation 1, the impacts of and ethics around artificial intelligence, it resonates extremely well with what we aim as G20 president. President Lula, for example, has been very vocal on saying that besides these 3 priorities that Brazil has put at the center of the agenda of G20, we need to tackle the question of artificial intelligence, if possible, working on the issue of governance, because these will have far-reaching consequences in many areas, and we need the G20 to also deal with that. As for recommendation 2, it also sits high in our priority list. We have set up a bioeconomy initiative to discuss this topic, which still lacks a multilateral framework, so we can steer the discussion toward basic principles and common understandings. Also, recommendation 3 on energy transitions, and recommendation 4 related to health system, and of course, recommendation 5 related to social justice, they speak directly to our main goal in G20, of fighting inequalities and promoting development. To conclude, please allow me to pay a brief homage to a famous Brazilian scientist called César Lattes. We will celebrate the 100th anniversary of his birth in a few days' time on July the 11th. And the reason I raise his name is that apart from some remarkable contributions to physics, Lattes played a pivotal role in promoting science in Brazil. He was one of the key actors in setting up our National Council for Scientific and Technological Development, the main body to support science in Brazil, and the Brazilian Center for Research in Physics. I believe we would be pleased to see science take center stage at G20 through the S20. Thank you, Professor Helena Nader, for the invitation, and thank you, the S20 community, for your collective efforts to put together this remarkable set of recommendations and work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I now invite Dr. Tatiana Berenger, who was part of the G20 team at the Ministry of Finance and is responsible for promoting civil society engagement within the G20 financial track. Dr. Tatiana Berenger, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Dear Excellence, Professor Helena Nader, Chair of S20, Science 20, dear colleagues of MCTE and FINEP, dear Mauricio Lírio, Sherpa of Sherpa Track at G20 Brazilian Presidents, dear colleagues and memberships of G20 Science Academy associations. On behalf of the Brazilian Ministry of Finance, I congratulate Science 20 on this meeting and for the role that this engagement group plays on G20. It's a pleasure to be here today at this opening session. Science for Global Transformation. It's a big, big theme. It's very important when we are addressing to building a new world in a specific momentum. It's an honor to be here, and at this moment that Brazilian presidents has crossed the halfway mark of our presidents, and you are addressing and making some kind of different for our presidents. As you know, the Brazilian G20 president's motto is building a just world and a sustainable planet. And this can only be possible with the development of science and technology based on social and environmental values, seeking to combat inequalities and climate crisis. We hope that science community can contribute on this way. Even though the world scenario is very turbulent, the Brazilian president, and specifically the finance track, we have had the opportunity to put on the table and into the public debate some important issues that I would like to highlight here and share with you. And some of these items, we received good reports that will become deliverables and recommendations for the Leaders' Summit in November. The first one is the inequalities between and within nations as a central aspect of the global economy. The Framework Working Group has conducted a country survey with some experience to combat inequalities. The idea was to build a menu of policy measures and recommendations to address inequality pressures. And also, Finance Track push pressure on the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. The second, the proposal to tax the super rich as a measure to combat inequalities and profit evasion in a global and interdependent economy. We have started this debate to push forward the international agenda, and we are richly rewarded for spreading this message. Minister Haddad invited Professor Gabriel Zucman to present a concrete proposal to the G20 members in February. And last week, he delivered a report to enforce this proposal. We are now in negotiation with the ministers for a declaration of international taxation cooperation that can be delivered in July meeting, 2022-23. Third, we gave voice to the debtor countries to speak about their perspective on debt relief and sustainable development goals in a side event, back-to-back IFA working group meeting that was called Africa-led debate on debt. Fourth, we are working to build a roadmap for big, better, and more effective multilateral development banks, seeking to improve their capacity to work towards the 2030 agenda. We pointed out the possibility of increase the use of IMF special drawing rights resources for MDBs. 50, we advocate for leadership changes with international finance institutions. Our focus will be on promoting inclusiveness among South-South nations and ensuring gender equality in board memberships and chair positions with the international finance architecture. 60, we are addressing plural perspectives on just transition and trying to increase private and public investment for it. We have received various reports for UNDP, ELO, ICLAC, and other stakeholders on the impact of mitigation and adaptation plans, showing how complex and plural it is. Seventh, the infrastructure working group addressed the necessity of resilient and cross-border infrastructure capacity growing. Ninth, at the Joint Finance and Health Initiative, unpacked the centrality of finance initiatives designed to address social determinants of health and the increasing resource mobilization through debt for health swaps arrangements. Last but not least, we are building a process of social participation in G20. We had a team that I made the current coordination, which was the bridge between civil society and finance track. We participated in the meetings and debates of the engagement groups, like this one. We kept in touch with other stakeholders, and we organized meetings around the finance track priorities, creating spaces for dialogue with global civil society and finance track technicians and the working groups coordinators. We held a virtual meeting on inequalities and a face-to-face meeting on international taxation, where participants delivered a declaration with recommendations to the Minister Fernando Haddad. Last week, we had a virtual meeting on just transition, where we had the brilliant intervention of Professor Helena Nader. Thank you for that. You can access all this material at the G20 website. And finally, we are organizing an in-depth and courageous meeting with the finance track deputies and the engagement groups on 22 July. We hope to see the science chair there to present your recommendations, that I think they are very well aligned with finance track priorities and will be well received, and it will play a very important role. You have this opportunity, and we think that this unprecedented event can be a legacy for Brazilian president to South Africa, and we count on you to have that, to move this forward. So I will end here. I hope you have a nice midterm meeting. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you very much, all of you.
Well, the representative from the G20 Social hasn't arrived yet, so I now have the pleasure to invite Dr. Celso Pancera, who is the president of the Brazilian Funding Agency for Studies and Projects, our FINEP, which is a public company that operates under the umbrella of the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. FINEP has as its mission the promotion of the economic and social development of Brazil by supporting the advancements of science, technology, and innovation. Celso Pancera, please.
Bom dia, professora Helena Nader,
Good
nossa
morning,
presidente
Professor
da
Nader,
Academia Brasileira de Ciências,
Chair of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences,
nosso embaixador Maurício Lírio,
Ambassador Mauricio Liro,
Luiz Fernandes, secretário executivo do Ministério de Ciência e Tecnologia, aqui representando a nossa ministra Luciana Santos,
Distinguished Luis Fernandes, Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, representing our Science and Technology and Innovation Minister, Luciana.
senhoras e senhores.
Ladies and gentlemen,
A FINEP tem participado ativamente de diversos dos encontros preparatórios ao G20.
FINEP has actively participating in a preparation meetings for the S20.
A iniciativa do governo Lula de trazer o G20 para o Rio de Janeiro, cidade, sede da FINEP,
The initiative of President Lula to bring the G20 to Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is the host city for FINEP, my organization.
recoloca o Brasil como importante nação protagonista de transformações no mundo.
This places Brazil as playing a main role as a nation in the transformation of the world.
Os 5 grandes temas desse encontro: inteligência artificial, bioeconomia, transição energética, desafios na saúde e justiça social.
The 5 main topics are AI, bioeconomy, energy transition process, health challenges, and social justice.
São agendas que o mundo todo está observando e atuando.
These are topics the whole world is observing and acting upon.
Aqui no Brasil, o presidente Lula e a ministra Luciana Santos
Here in Brazil, President Lula and Minister Luciana Santos
delegaram à nossa FINEP, a maior agência de ciência, tecnologia e inovação do Brasil,
delegated to FINEP, the biggest agency for science, technology, and innovation in Brazil,
a tarefa de ajudar no financiamento e na reconstituição da base científica e tecnológica brasileira.
delegated to my agency the task in helping get the finance to recover the scientific base for development and innovation in Brazil.
Além da ampliação e da reconstrução da base científica e tecnológica brasileira,
In addition to reconstructing the science and technology base in Brazil,
o presidente Lula lançou programa chamado Neoindustrialização,
President Lula has launched a program called Neo-Industrialization,
que objetiva recolocar o Brasil como uma das nações mais industrializadas do planeta.
The objective is to place Brazil as one of the most industrialized nations on the planet.
E esse encontro, o Science 20,
This meeting, Science Planning,
é um momento importante, se traduz num momento importante
it's a very important moment
para o Brasil debater com as principais academias de ciências vinculadas ao G20,
for Brazil to debate with the main scientific institutions
nossas tarefas, nossos objetivos e os nossos deveres.
to debate our tasks, our objectives, and our duties.
Muito obrigado e um bom encontro.
Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you all a very productive meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Celso Pancetta. To close the opening ceremony, remarks from the G20 presidency, we welcome Dr. Luiz Manuel Rebelo Fernandes, who is the Deputy Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation of Brazil.
Well, good morning to all of you. I'd like to convey our Minister Luciana Santos' greetings to all representatives from the Academies of Science that are here united at meeting in this S20 summit. I would like to greet also Helena Nada, President of the Brazilian Academy of Science. Thank you for the invitation to be here at this very important session. I'd like to greet our colleagues from the different areas of the Brazilian government that are here present, as well as the representatives from various Brazilian scientific institutions that are here also meeting with us. Ambassador Lírio, Mauricio Lírio, has already highlighted Brazil's 3 general priorities for the G20 presidency. And they place the context for the debate of this summit, the S20 summit. We propose to tackle the technological and scientific inequality and the unbalanced distribution of scientific activity that is also at the heart of inequality in access and production of science, technology, and innovation within the context of our G20 presidency. This unbalanced distribution of scientific activity generates serious problems not only for the scientific community in developing countries, as Brazil, but for development itself. It accelerates disparity between advanced and developing countries, creating social and economic difficulties at both the national and international levels. The idea of 2 worlds of science is an anathema to the scientific spirit, which is universal, as we all know. And it requires the commitment of scientists and scientific institutions throughout the world to change that portrait and to bring the benefits of science and knowledge to all in the world. At the Research and Innovation Working Group of G20, Brazil proposed that we should work to transform research and innovation ecosystems in order to respond responsibly and effectively to social and environmental challenges and support joint efforts in this endeavor. This work must take place in an open and transparent way to build more sustainable, accessible, inclusive, resilient, and adaptive systems, with special focus in reducing scientific, technological, and innovation inequalities into inclusive, socially fair, just, environmentally responsible economic development. Brazil supports the broad discussion by the scientific community of best models and practices that lead to the creation of a global open innovation strategy as being discussed at the Research and Innovation Working Group. The overarching objective of an open innovation strategy is to foster knowledge exchange, strengthen international cooperation on technology and science, and facilitate the transfer of technologies and the co-creation and co-design of global and local solutions to serve the benefits to all participating parties and to address global challenges, overcome technological dependence, and support countries to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, especially to achieve the goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In this context, I understand that there is complete convergence and alliance with the understanding and proposals of the S20 Summit preliminary recommendations regarding artificial intelligence, bioeconomy, energy transition, health challenges, and social justice. By the way, these are dimensions that are at the very heart of our national government's development policy. And I would like to highlight one aspect of that policy in which we have a very strong collaboration and cooperation with the Brazilian Academy of Science. We will be launching 1 month from now at the 5th National Science, Technology, and Innovation Conference, national policy for artificial intelligence, which also includes not only technological infrastructure challenges for Brazil, but which will bring a number of issues related to global governance and regulation of artificial intelligence. I think that is a very important aspect in discussion here at the S20 Summit. So I understand that we have full alliance. We are anxiously looking forward to the conclusions of this S20 Summit. I believe that your conclusions with those 5 main recommendations will help us a lot in guaranteeing overall environment in the G20 discussions that can point to a more inclusive world, a world where science and the knowledge generated by science is at the heart of bringing people together and not putting people apart. So thank you very much, and I wish you much success in the discussions at the S20 Summit. Thank you.
Well, after listening to the vision and expectations of the Brazilian government towards the G20, we will hear the words from the S20 Troika, that's chaired by Professor Milena Nader, President of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences. We also have Professor Sheka Manzi from the Indian National Science Academy, here representing Professor Ashutosh Sharma, President of INSA, and also Professor Stephanie Burton, who's the interim president of the Academy of Science of South Africa. So I give the floor to Professor Helena Nader, please.
Hello, yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Marcos, for being the host, hosting this preliminary session. I want my special thanks go initially to Ambassador Mauricio Lírio, to Dr. Tatiana Beringer from Finance Track, to Dr. Celso Pancera, the president of FINEP, who gave us the financial support to have this meeting going on together with the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, to Professor Luis Fernandes, who is the Deputy Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation. My special thanks to my colleagues, Professor Shekhar Manda from Indian National Science Academy and Professor Stephanie Burton from the South Africa Academy of Science. As the Sherpa of the Science 20, I extend a warm welcome to each of you, with special greetings to all authorities from our S20 member academies, to the board of the Brazilian Academy of Science, distinguished officials, and invited guests. The G20 group of 19 countries, plus European Union and now the African Union, was established in 1999 as a platform for finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss international economic and financial issues. It is also relevant to remember that the Science 20, the S20, was established much later on in 2017 to serve as the G20 Science and Technology Engagement Group. Similar to the G20, the S20 has a non-permanent rotating secretariat and functions as a forum rather than an organization, with its summit held annually, usually preceding the respective G20 summit. It's also most relevant to emphasize that the S20 operates independently from governments and includes the academies of science from those 19 nations, along with the African Union and the European Union, to facilitate dialogue between the scientific community and policymakers and society as a whole. Previous editions of the S20 were held in the following countries: Germany 2017, Argentina 2018, Japan 2019, Saudi Arabia 2020, Italy 2021, Indonesia 2022, and India 2023. This year, Brazil is the host, and South Africa will be our host in 2025. As the Sherpa for S20 Brazil 2024, the Brazilian Academy of Science proposed the motto, Science for Global Transformation, with an emphasis, as already mentioned, on 5 themes: artificial intelligence, bioeconomy, energy transition, process, health challenge, and social justice. So far, the documents we have discussed and elaborated together provide recommendations on these critical global issues to G20 leaders. Today, we begin our summit meeting to draft the communique that will be approved by all S20 members. It is now my honor to give the floor to Professor Shekhar Manda from the Indian National Science Academy, the past Sherpa of S20, for his considerations. Thank you for being here with us.
Professor Helena Nada, members from the Science Academies of 19 countries and African Union and European Union, ladies and gentlemen. I am reading this statement on behalf of the President of Indian National Science Academy, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, who conveys his deepest regrets for not being present here for an unforeseen circumstances. We had the pleasure and privilege of hosting all of you last year in India, and we were greatly delighted that most of you present here in this room were there in person for the meetings that we had. All of you will agree with me that science is designed to further the scope of freedom, freedom that pushes the boundaries of thought and ultimately liberates us from our own being and the limits that the flesh is here to. Our colleagues from the Brazilian Academy of Sciences have done a great work in finding and deliberating the key ideas of the frontier that we face today and are destined to cross tomorrow. I must congratulate them for the commendable effort and applaud you for supporting them as you supported us in the previous year in India. In India, we deliberated the theme Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which translates into English as one earth, one family, one future. This thoughtful choice aims to foster a sense of unity and consensus, recognizing the importance of addressing global challenges together as a cohesive and effective international community. The communiqué strongly advocated for bolstering innovation at all stages through partnerships, thereby facilitating clean energy access and driving the green transition. In particular, the S20 recommendations in 2023 called for enhanced cooperation to strengthen surveillance and prediction systems for early detection of emerging pathogens, joint actions to combat antimicrobial resistance, AMR, and the development of AI-driven predictive diagnostic tools. The focus on holistic health included expanding mental health services through community-centered primary health care and telehealth, understanding healthcare market dynamics, and deepening collaborations on traditional medicine. Moreover, the communiqué emphasized the importance of intertwining science, society, and culture by promoting digital technologies for heritage preservation and fostering international cooperation on emerging technologies. These efforts aim to create inclusive platforms for responsible innovation, reflecting the collective commitment of G20 nations to a sustainable and equitable future. Science, in its absolute form, is the primeval cause of liberty and equality of human civility and intellectual evolution. However, this liberty and equality should not come at the expense of the less privileged or the less gifted. Therefore, it is essential that as we unequivocally and ferociously strive for freedom from the known and that which is not known, we ensure we share our gifts, the gifts that science and technology help us create or discover, not only with our contemporaries across the world, but most importantly, with the children and the young of the civilization who will carry the cradle of hope and freedom forward. We must be seekers of truth if we are to seek something, and in this seeking, we are destined to make choices. And making these choices, we are bound to lose something. The loss is inseparable from progress. We, as scientists, have the power and responsibility to choose the loss, and that is why we consistently meet every year to deliberate the price that we are ready to pay for the progress we so desire. Last year, we had repeatedly impressed upon the necessity of finding the language of future, the language in which we can write and sing the verses of our collective being. Eliot has said, "For last year's words belong to the last year's language, and next year's words await another choice, another voice." As you will speak from this forum today, you will speak with the new language of truth and in the voice that will resound with the annals of future, and that is great responsibility. Friends, I reiterate that among the highest ideals and the greatest goods, inherent conflicts prevent their simultaneous realization. This is an undeniable conceptual truth. Our task, therefore, is not to lament these choices, but to embrace them with wisdom and discernment. We must recognize that every decision we make shapes our shared future. The 5 agenda points that we are discussing in this S20 meeting have already been elaborated upon, and the S20 communique has already been drafted pretty well. As we move forward into an era of unprecedented challenges and opportunities, I am reminded of the Vedic exhortation, Yatra Vishwam Bhavati Ekanidam, where essentially it translates into English into where the world becomes a nest. This powerful reminder that despite our diverse backgrounds and experiences, we share a common home and a collective destiny. In this interconnected world, our actions ripple beyond borders, our innovations uplift entire communities, and our compassion bridges divides. Let us come together to dedicate ourselves towards building a world where every individual feels a sense of belonging, where every community thrives in harmony, and where our global nest is nurtured with peace, cooperation, and sustainable development for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Mundy. And before passing the floor to our dear friend, Professor Stephanie Burton, I just want to mention that you probably noticed some young generation entering the room. They are students from Rio de Janeiro, and they are doing this. They're going to all the meetings of the G20 in order to learn how we are working, and afterwards, they write with their own words on their social media what is going on the G20. So thank you so much for being here. And now, Professor Stephanie Burton, please.
Thank you. Ambassador, Excellencies, honored colleagues, distinguished leaders, observers and representatives of organizations, Professor Nada, and our students, welcome. And thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Academy of Science of South Africa. And I'm very pleased to say that we are here as a group. I have with me our Executive Officer, Professor Himla Sudial, and also our Manager for International Partnerships, Dr. Malusi Twala. And we are all very pleased to be able to be here to contribute to this meeting. I'd like to start by saying thank you to Brazil's National Academy for hosting us at this meeting and for leading the 2024 S20 activities. This meeting, like the previous ones, has an emphasis on the role of science in development and policy. It brings together representation of academies and official organizations in our 19 countries and the EU, and I'm very pleased to say also the African Union. It gives us an opportunity to highlight our shared purpose in fostering collaboration to use science to promote equity, access to human rights, and development. So this is our opportunity. It's our opportunity to send our message to our national leaders. The process that has brought us to this point has been open and inclusive and constructive. And it has also been very comprehensive and detailed. It has allowed for focused interaction between a number of groups And we have all been able to participate as countries, as contributors to the task forces, as individual experts from our countries, making contributions to the end result, the communique, which we are discussing now. And I would like to thank and congratulate the Brazilian Academy on orchestrating that process. Thank you. So now we have an opportunity to take up these discussions, to discuss how our ideas have developed from the beginning to where we are now and what our clear message is from the 2024 S20. We can also use this meeting to strengthen our exchange on science and innovation and advice to policy going forward. The evidence-based advice that we can give continues to be key to contributing to our goal of socio-economic development and this year's theme of science for global transformations. Our academy, the Academy of Science of South Africa, continues to champion the S20 cause and the focus areas of the workforces, especially around health and food security and social justice, but also, and never more important, the digital innovations which allow for connection and communication. We include in our interactions, of course, partners in Africa, and where there are numerous other academies. And we see this as key to reducing inequality, strengthening economies, and enhancing inclusivity, especially, as I said, with respect to digital communication and innovation, energy, and the impacts of climate change. Colleagues, although we are concluding a communique, the work is not done. The work is not finished, and it will continue into next year and future years. So we look forward to delivering a strong, progressive message to our governments in the 2024 G20 meeting and from our S20. And we also look forward to next year to South Africa taking over and hosting this very important forum. And I may say, as I conclude, that Brazil has left us with an excellent act to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I now would like to give the word back to Dr. Cortesão, please. He's going to make an announcement.
Well, before entering the next part of our meeting, we will have a cultural moment that aims to inspire us for the discussions that we will have during the next 2 days. I invite to the stage and pleased to present you to the Sucupira Sextet, which is an instrumental group from Rio that entered the scene in 2014. The Sucupira Sextet embarks on a danceable journey through the melodies of the world with Brazil, and more specifically, Northeastern music as the starting point, in a style they like to call tropical gypsy forró jazz. Starting from the intersections between Brazilian music and rhythms from other parts of the world, their work is inspired by the idea of sound universality. They delve into the vast repertoire of forró, building multicultural bridges with various traditional dances from distant places. The melodies and harmonies navigate through different rivers and seas, as if from the São Francisco River, we disembarked in the Caribbean, took a turn in the Amazon, and ended up in the Bosphorus. So please join me in welcoming the Sucupira Sextet. Okay, we'll have a short 5 minutes break just to remove the equipment from the stage. So if you wish to grab a cup of coffee or tea, it's right in the back there. And we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. This was not a planned break, so we'll have a coffee break a little bit later. No coffee break, but we'll have a lunch break soon. So let me invite you back to your seats. I hope you have enjoyed the moments of entertainment that we just had. And we're ready to start working again, right? Everyone sitting down in their seats? Okay. Let me invite Professor Helena Nader up here to the podium. She will make a brief summary of what has been the S20 process until now, since the initial steps until today. So I invite Professor Helena Nader to join me up here and make her short presentation on the S20 process. So, Professor Helena Nader, you have the floor.
Well, again, thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And I'll go briefly over what brought us here, the rationale, and then I'll give the floor to the 5 task forces so that we can summarize our work with transparency, what we have been doing up to now. So, again, here are the flags of our dear academies, Argentina, and I want to emphasize that today we have here 18 countries. So Argentina, Australia, Brazil, of course, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico. Unfortunately, the Russian delegation didn't make it. Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and African Union and European Union. What led us to the motto of that Brazil proposed and the 5 task force? Well, I decided to bring back some of the rationale. Remember, 2015, UN, 193 countries, including ours, that are sitting here in this room today. Member committed to the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. And in that paper that our government signed, it is written eradication of poverty and sustainable development. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals must ensure that the benefits of science are accessible to all. Also, the ethical principle of equity to support the most vulnerable populations around the world. And it's written just in the beginning, leave no one behind. Are we indeed doing this? That's a question that I want to leave for our countries, for our scientific academies. The Sustainable Development Goals very clearly divide. It was hard to get to 17 because everybody wanted to write something else. So in order to shorten the list, took a long discussion. But finally, all countries, 193 countries, agreed. And I want to bring this recent paper, I think it's 2019, on Nature, by Sachs, Jeffrey Sachs, including Mariana Mazzucato, the economist, they decide to look over the 17 SDGs and arrange in a different way of looking. And they call, I need to go back. I need to use this because the screen doesn't get those here. Transformation 1, education, gender, and inequality. Transformation 2, health, well-being, and demography. Transformation 3, energy decarbonization and sustainable industry. Transformation 4, sustainable food, land, water, and oceans. Transformation 5, sustainable cities and communities. And transformation 6, digital revolution for sustainable development, again, with the motto, leave no one behind. This is a very interesting paper that was published on Nature, but indeed, the big picture is in a different, we are going to set up this slide also on our platform, because it's very important for all of us to have it clear, because it's a different way of allocating the 17 and showing that indeed they are interconnected. So Brazil decided to have as a motto, science for global transformation, with this in agreement with the SDGs. And we propose 5 different areas. Task Force, artificial intelligence, ethics, social impact, regulation, and knowledge sharing. Bioeconomy, shaping the world towards a sustainable planet. Energy transition process, renewable energies, social and economic considerations. Health challenge, quality, equity, access, preparedness for epidemics, and climate change. And the 5th, social justice, promoting inclusion, ending poverty, and reducing inequalities. We have up to now been working on this 5 task force. We have the final document that was circulated and agreed upon all academies. And through that document, we did send a proposal for the communique that needs to be discussed here to be signed up to the July 2019. So I brought this, again, it's from the CDC, and I think it's fantastic because this gives us an idea of the impacts of climate change on human health. And this could be done for others. So it's very clear that rising temperature, rising sea level, increasing CO2, more extreme weather is going to have an impact in the 2nd circle, and this will have an impact on the 3rd circle. And this could be on, and we could do this from the Center for Disease Control from the USA. And it's a knowledge there. I didn't ask them permission, but it's written in here. I didn't have the time to do that, but it's a knowledge. And it's very important. We could do the same for education, because climate change, and people are still saying that this does not exist, is going to impact the globe and humanity. And I want also to bring, even though it's not in the 5 task force, it percolates the 5 task forces. That is, population by broad age groups of the G20 members. And even though we are supposedly the 20 largest economies, we are very different, not only in terms of the language, but mainly in terms of how our society is set up nowadays. So, if we look at Europe, this is 1950, 1975, 2000, 2025, and goes on to 2100. 2010, sorry. There is a peak that's gone already. And this means 25, 64 of age. What's going on? Let's just look at the blue and the purple lines. The purple line is increasing, 65. So the considerations for Europe is one rationale. But if we look at Northern America, there is a peak also coming and flattening. And the same is going on. It's not exactly like Europe, but it's very similar, which means older population. So the needs need to take, science needs to take this into consideration. And in here, Eastern and Southeastern Asia, this includes several of our countries in here. Again, a peak 2025 and an increase in the purple line that is older than 65. But this is not true for all Asia, because if considering the whole South Asia, not only a country, you can see that this is going to peak around 2050, 2055, and there is still a long way for the increase of the purple line, 65 or more. Look here, it's going to peak 2100. I don't know how to say that in English. Forgive me. Next here is Southern Africa. Again, blue line, purple line. And Africa as a whole. You see the difference? Latin America. We are becoming too old. Me too, especially me. But, and are we taking this into consideration? Are our governments considering this when they do policies? And this is the globe, a mixture of all of this. So, having this in mind, I brought these thoughts for us. The G20 should dedicate special attention and consequently the S20 in considering the difference between their countries in relation to the demographic characteristics of the population. G20 members must be aware of the far-reaching implications that demographic trends have on various aspects of their societies and economies. G20 members need to anticipate and adapt to change in the size and age distribution of the workforce, which will impact social security, pension systems, and welfare programs, and consequently, their economic growth and competitiveness. The educational system must consider the needs of both aging and young populations. The aging population influences health demands and spending. Understanding demographic trends is crucial to anticipating technological needs and fostering innovation. Demographics influence the adoption and development of technology such as AI and should guide the investments in research and development. Finally, knowledge of the demographic characteristics of the population is fundamental for the G countries to make informed decisions that shape the well-being of their citizens, drive economic prosperity, and contribute to global sustainable development. And before ending, I just want to summarize everything that this group has been doing since the beginning. That was the first communication, the first communication with all of you was a letter in January 14th, inviting for the inception meeting and the summit to all of you, covering the in-person 2 meetings. January 28th, we sent out to all academies, to all members, the preliminary document that was written, and here I want to thank Virgilio. I'm going to go into the order. Virgilio, who is responsible for artificial intelligence, Patrícia Bosa, who is responsible for the health task force, Ruben Oliver, who is responsible for social justice, Adalberto Val, who sent a message, who was responsible for bioeconomy, and where is Prata? There, and Prata, who was responsible for the energy transition. So I want to thank the 5 of you for your inputs and for all the efforts. And we sent you that, and then we had the inception meeting March 11 and 12. March 20, we sent a message, again, asking for inputs on the 5 task forces. April 11, we had a deadline for the inputs. Another letter. I tried to summarize these letters. Finally, April 3rd, information regarding how we would share all these inputs. And we received the inputs from from all members, not for all 5 task force, but we received inputs from all members. And we have been using so that every academy, even though sometimes they didn't contribute to a certain task force, but they were able to check because we had shared folder. June 4, you were again invited, and June 14, we sent you the draft of the S20 communique submitted for consideration by the S20 members. I'm going to read because I want to make this very clear. It was informed that the final version of the communique will be put together during the S20 meeting to be endorsed by S20 members, because some presidents are not here. They need to discuss with their boards by July 19th. That's why the Sherpa for G20, Ambassador Lídio, mentioned that was he knew the communique that's being proposed, but he knows that this is going to be something to be ended by July 19th. Also, the final versions of the thematic documents produced by the 5 task force, including all the considerations made by the experts from the academies, was sent to the S20 members. Again, the members had access to all suggestions made by the S20 academies and experts' recommendations by shared fold. Finally, I want to thank, my special thank to all of you, members of the S20, for my special thanks, our special thanks, for the experts who participate and who were assigned by the different academies, all invited guests, other participants, and the board and staff of the Brazilian Academy of Science for their help. Thank you so much.
Okay. As we have heard from Professor Helena Nader, it has been a long and fruitful journey that we have traveled together, and based on the background that has been provided, I believe that we're ready to move forward. So I give the floor again to Professor Helena Nader so that we can proceed with the discussions. And Professor Helena Nader will be chairing together with the Troika the S20 meeting for the next 2 days. So, thank you.
Oops. Alô? Agora foi. I want to pass the floor, give the floor to Virgílio, Professor Virgílio Almeida, who is going to briefly to summarize the results of the first task force, artificial intelligence. He was, as I pointed out before, the coordinator from our academy. Virgílio, please.
Thank you, Professor Helena Nader, and I would like to greet all participants of this S20 meeting. And I'm going to talk about the task force on artificial intelligence. And before I show the main points for AI, it's important to mention that this, the points that we will show here today are the result of a collaborative effort among all the academies. We got contributions, comments, suggestions from all the academies, and they were very important to produce this document. Sometimes, for a specific topic, the contributions pointed in opposite directions. So we try to accommodate all the points for that. Let me give. How can I move to the next slide? Okay, so what was the context for preparing this document? We started from the motto for the Science 20, which is Science for Global Transformation. And AI is one of the important vectors for these transformations. And we had some guiding principles proposed by the Brazilian Academy of Science, and they were sustainable development, focusing on 3 dimensions: social, economic, and environment. And we also had this idea that we had to proceed to come up with recommendations based on consensus. So we took into consideration all the suggestions and contributions that we received. And basically, this is a picture that represents the process that we followed to craft the final AI document. We started with the preliminary document. We had the inception meeting where we got very good suggestions from the participants, and then we got suggestions basically from all academies, and we produced a new AI document, and we had all this final draft of the AI document in July, actually last month in June, and then we are ready to complete the final version of the AI document based on the suggestions that we received here from the participants. To generate the AI preliminary document, it was generated by a group of 12 Brazilian scientists, a diverse team of 12 scientists representing both women and men from various regions across Brazil, from different universities. And the central theme was artificial intelligence, ethics, social impact, regulation, and knowledge sharing. So we worked on 4 dimensions of this central theme: AI and sustainable development goals, building capacity in AI, ethical concerns and regulatory measures, and finally, some concluding remarks. So I'm going to try to summarize all the suggestions that we got from the different academies, from this group. So a general comment that somehow summarizes what we got is AI development should prioritize fairness, accountability, transparency, explainability, and safety, focusing on people while promoting economic growth, productivity, and advancements in business, science, and knowledge. So we had to combine all those suggestions. So in terms of sustainability goals, some suggestions are: recognize AI's broad potential for sustainable development goals, but the important word is potential, because the progress of using AI for SDG is not as good as we expected. Advocates for expanding AI scope, including views from different areas of science, humanities, social sciences, health, and computer science and engineering. And also, we got comments to address the environment impact of AI because of the significant electricity and water consumption by data centers. Impact of AI on employment and economic inequality. Impact on employment. AI's influence on jobs is multifaceted. At the same time, AI can cause job losses in some industries, but it could create new jobs in other industries. So we have to combine these different viewpoints. We also got comments that shows that there are some different opinions on the impact of AI. I call it this debated impact on economic inequality. The claim that AI exacerbates economic disparities is under scrutiny. Some countries point to that, and other countries do not agree on that. Evidence indicates that AI's effects on inequality may vary significantly across different settings and industries. So as Professor Helena Nada showed in her slides, so we have different countries with different problems, but also with different potential in this group. AI in healthcare. AI holds great promises, but there is often a gap between what it can theoretically achieve and how it performs in the real world. We need to bridge that gap. Modest impact in healthcare, largely due to ongoing challenges in fully digitizing health system. So it's not ready yet for taking all the potential of AI. AI and education is a point that many countries said that it's very relevant for them, and it's something that we should give emphasis. Highlights AI's potential to revolutionize education through personalized learning experience. And also because education is something that we can deliver, part of that delivered over the digital infrastructure. AI, open data, and open source. Open data is essential for research. So essential for global equity, and it also could help nations with limited resources to acquire knowledge and expertise on AI. I think that most of the comments that we got and suggestions were related to ethical concerns and regulatory measures. So summarizing what we got in terms of ethical and regulatory concerns, stresses ethical and responsible AI implementation, address broad risks of AI misuse. This is one of the topics that several countries pointed out as very relevant and important. Recognize challenges in global AI governance, acknowledge the critical role of international AI governance, noting the difficulties posed by diverse cultural and political landscape among the 20 countries. Focuses on some countries brought this comment that AI should, the regulatory framework should address the global catastrophic risks. Also, another important aspect of this is call for a data governance system. We talk about AI governance, but we never talked about the data governance that is really important for the development of AI technologies. And notes the role AI plays in modern warfare. That's a point that became even more important in the last months. So what are the final remarks that we try to include in the document? We should prioritize ethical AI. AI must prioritize human welfare and environment health, focusing on fairness, accountability, transparency, explainability, and safety. We have to balance innovation and regulation. Encourage innovation with adaptable, flexible regulations, avoiding over-regulation and excessive laws. Global standards for AI safety. G20 countries should set global standards for the safe development and auditability of AI technologies. Final remarks. The second slide is preventing bias and ensuring inclusion in AI. It's crucial to make AI inclusive and free of biases. And we also need to propose the creation of a global AI governance framework. Establishing a global framework for AI governance, and there are 4 characteristics that are key for this global AI governance framework. It should respect cultural differences among the countries. It should align diverse national laws, or should respect the national laws. It should ensure all countries are included equally. And it should share AI benefits fairly. So these are important points for the global regulation. Finally, investments in research and education in AI have become urgent priorities globally, spanning both advanced and developing countries, nations. There is a pressing call to speed up global discussions on AI regulation to foster international partnership and collaboration in this field. We know that AI is a hot topic on the global discussions, but collaboration is a key for the advance of AI all over the world. As our world embraces data-driven practices, establishing a robust foundation for data governance is essential. So some points that we tried, this process of coming up with this documents, it's a process. In the beginning, we tried to expand the topics. Then we have to summarize the topics. It's very difficult, but I hope that we can, we had some success in this. So these are points that we propose that should be included in the draft version of the communique. Nations should support their scientific communities in researching, developing, and utilizing AI effectively. Collaboration is essential to develop scientific database, invest in data infrastructures, and provide AI training. AI is pivotal for development, particularly in healthcare, education, and addressing climate change. AI carries risks, such as widening inequalities and environment impact. Ethical AI should prioritize human welfare. Humans should be in the center of these developments. And environment sustainability. The G20 should establish global AI regulation standards to benefit all countries actable and uphold human values. The G20 should advocate for AI to contribute effectively to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virgilio. I pass the floor now to, I think it's going to be the online bioeconomy by Professor Adalberto Val. You have the video, or shall I invert the order? There it is.
My name is Adalberto Val, and I am the Vice President of the Brazilian Academy of Science for the Amazon. I am very pleased to present you our efforts to have a document on bioeconomy. I would love to stay there with you all, but I am on another mission outside the country. I am sorry for that. So the Task Force 2 is one of the 5 task forces that the Brazilian Academy of Science defined to be discussed within the S20 countries, academies. So we characterize bioeconomy as a way for shaping the world for a sustainable planet. Initially, we had a 3-page document with some fundamentals on bioeconomy that we shared with all 20 delegates of S20. This is the list of these S20 academies that helped to shape this document. And I would like to call attention for these red circle academies that send us several comments, very important comments, that we tried to incorporate in the final version of the 3-page document that I'm going to show you over the next 10 minutes. So we send these initial documents, and the final version have incorporated several new aspects that is composing this final 3-page document that we are going to sign over this meeting. In the introduction, we call attention for 4 points that indicates that we are arriving at a point of no return in the 21st century. The 4 points are, first, climate changes related to the impact of the greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuel burning and aerobic fermentation of biomasses, uncontrolled combustion of plastic waste, municipal and as well industrial wastes, soil degradation, methane gas from paddy soil and from livestock, and the use of nitrogen-rich soluble fertilizers. The second point, loss of biodiversity. This is a tremendous big problem and comes from habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, agricultural pressure on land usage and industrial activity. Also, the third point, the global economic dependence on depleting natural resources. And fourth, ever-increasing consumption of industrial goods and packaged consumable that produces megatons of non-recyclable with negative impacts on human health, clean water, soil, and aquifer health and environment. So these 4 points have to have our attention over the next years. And also, historically, biodiversity conservation has contrasted with an economic model based on the exploitation and destruction of natural resources. Responding to this, researchers from various academic fields have modeled alternative forms of development. These efforts coalesced around a still evolving concept, bioeconomy. Different countries have unique biomes and production challenges, leading to a variety of definitions of bioeconomy. However, G20 countries share common goals in this field. And here we pinpoint these 5 ones. 1, integrating bioeconomy in national plans of development. 2, improving biotrade practices through a fair and equitable sharing benefits. 3, sharing successful methodologies and metrics nationally, regionally, and internationally. 4, financing solutions that assist countries' efforts to meet the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And 5, ensuring inclusive and socially just bioeconomy that benefits local and indigenous communities. Considering these definitions and its shared qualities, we strongly recommend that bioeconomy models must aim to meet certain criteria. These are the criteria that we deducted from all the previous discussions. First, to conserve and protect natural resources and support restoration efforts. We have to remember that the natural resources present in any biome are the result of long geoevolutionary processes. Ecosystems development and soil formation are examples of this. These processes form the basis for sustainable production chains and the regeneration of terrestrial and marine ecosystems. We have to adopt appropriate technologies. So efficient use of natural resources requires tailored technologies that address key production bottlenecks without harming the environment. And 3, engage indigenous and local communities and prioritize their well-being. This is fundamental. In order to address regional inequalities, it is fundamental to recognize the vital role of these communities in maintaining and conserving biodiversity and involve them in decision-making processes. So we also deducted some recommendations from all the interaction with the countries. These recommendations are related first to research and infrastructure development. And we have pinpointed here several recommendations. 1A is to promote bioeconomy innovation in biogenic feedstocks is critical to the transition from fossil energy to a biological way of harvesting the sun to produce bioenergy. 1B is actively promote and apply energy saving, emission reducing, and environmentally friendly green technologies to reduce resource consumption and environmental pollution during production. 1C is integrate circularity as part of a system approach. 1D, invest in new sources of food, of energy, chemicals, medicines, and other materials derived from biomass, forest, plants, microorganisms from native biodiversity in different biomes. Let me make a pause here just to say a few words about the Atto Tower that's presented on this left figure here. This tower is in the middle of the Amazon. It's called the Atto Tower and is higher than the Eiffel Tower in Paris and is completely equipped to monitor the forest, the Amazon forest, from the top of the trees in the forest up to the highest of the tower. So it's a very important equipment and is a collaboration between Brazil and Germany. So, in addition to those points, research and infrastructure investment needs to stimulate innovations in the global agri-food system for new inputs, such as biofertilizers, biological control, pollination, crop protection, traceability, and post-harvest. 1F, promote sustainable use of wood and bamboo with advanced technological and design innovation for building, construction, green energy, and green chemicals. 1G, through satellite imaging, combined with the use of local technologies and methods, enable the monitoring of changing landscapes and of activities that could undermine food security and/or lead to the destruction of natural resources, such as illegal mining. And research and infrastructure investment also should integrate biodiversity research and inputs on Earth system governance to generate a better assisted use of ecosystem services providers as pollinators, seed dispersers, and biological control agents. And to increase support for local research institutions and enterprise to encourage them to develop technologies suitable for local environments and production needs. The second point is integration of social justice. And we have 5 recommendations here. 1, promote sustainable and inclusive bioeconomic models, ensuring equitable distribution of resources and benefits, and improving the well-being of local communities. 2, prepare human resources for the challenges of the future by developing and equipping those involved with new skills shaped by transdisciplinary approaches. 3, engage local communities to advance responsible research and build close cooperation to jointly develop and implement sustainable development plans, ensuring community participation in decision-making. 4, enable community-driven innovations that respect and integrate traditional knowledge and culture. And 5, focus on leveraging local biological resources to promote regional economic growth and to improve carbon footprint by reducing emission and increasing carbon storage. And 3, that's most important as we live in the same world, is the international and multilateral cooperation. And here, we also stress 5 points. First, strengthen international collaboration to share the multidisciplinary knowledge between the natural, technological, and socioeconomic science to understand the radical changes that the bioeconomy requires. Second, create a G20 policy framework that enables countries to implement bioeconomy programs that improve quality of life by investing in translational social and technological innovations. Third, additionally, this G20 policy framework must accelerate the involvement of startups, philanthropic and venture capital to develop innovative solutions for the bioeconomy. Fourth, stress natural resource protection and restoration efforts through strict legal and policy frameworks to combat illegal mining and environmental degradation. And fifth, support and invest in ecological restoration projects such as reforestation and wetland restoration. I would like to call the attention for this type of environment, wetland restoration. These are the most endangered systems in the world. So the final remarks for this 3-page document, we can summarize as this. By uncovering the mechanisms of interaction between living beings in different biomes, we can develop bioproducts, bioenergy, ecotourism, and biotechnologies. This knowledge enables tailor-made strategies for each biome to maximize production and support the livelihoods of global and local communities. However, these solutions require transnational cooperation to secure natural resources, prevent ecosystems degradation, reduce the effects of non-native species, and support restoration efforts. The G20, stressing this, the G20 needs a coordinated policy effort on bioeconomy as a strategy for addressing climate change, poverty, and human and animal challenges. From this document, these 3-page documents, we summarize a paragraph to compose with the other task forces the communique that should be signed by all science academies, all 20 science academies. And this paragraph says, the bioeconomy, the sustainable use of biological resources, aims to revolutionize all economic sectors. Despite different definitions, nations share common goals, embedding the bioeconomy in national agendas, ensuring fair biotrade, and promoting sustainable innovation. We propose the following definition that highlights the common ground of these strategies. The bioeconomy is based on the supply of goods derived from renewable biological resources, bio-based products, food, feed, bioenergy, healthcare, and pharmaceuticals, in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, as well as traditional knowledge and practices. Our key recommendations are bold: invest in education, in cutting-edge research and infrastructure to drive breakthroughs, bioenergy, and green technology. Adopt sustainable resource practices and promote social justice to create inclusive models that benefit communities. We also call for robust international cooperation to share critical knowledge and implement transformative programs that improve quality of life and safeguard natural resources worldwide. I would like to stress this: robust international cooperation. Without cooperation, we cannot move forward towards a sustainable planet. So, thank you for your attention. Hello.
I now pass the floor to Professor Álvaro Prata, who was the leader for the energy transition process. Prata, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity. As agreed, all of you, I should also mention that this document was built using a series of suggestions and inputs that was brought by each member of the S20. We took in consideration every single message. You may not see explicitly what you asked us to put in the document, because sometimes a single comment would conflict with some major thoughts coming from different members. But you would see that somehow the phrase was changed, a new word was included to accommodate what we thought that was your intention. In fact, the Brazilian Academy of Science did that, tried to put itself in the place of each member that asked for some suggestion, just to make our comment more uniform regarding the expectations. Energy transition process. I like to stress the word transition, coming from one point and moving to a different scenario. So it's a moving operation, process. Renewable energies, social and economic considerations, not only technical considerations or technological considerations or scientific considerations, social, economic considerations, because that involves people. As you know, we should provide energy to avoid energy poverty, which is very intense in some parts of our world. In the beginning of our 3-page document, in the very beginning, we stress some facts and some premises, which are, number one, mentioned already, that there is a global imperative to combat climate change, to address resource depletion, to enhance energy security and market stability. Energy transition represents a shift in how we generate and consume energy nowadays, which are very carbon intensive. And we want to generate energy without carbon emission. Because after we start emission, we have a huge task, which is remove carbon that is already in the atmosphere. That's a huge task. Energy transition means reducing fossil fuels, minimizing CO2 emissions, increasing renewable energy, and adopting less energy-intensive process and products. Energy transition is essential to ensure access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy for all. Transition pathways. There isn't a single pathway. There was a very important country that stressed that very much. Transition pathways carry significant social and economic implications. Can you help me here, Vitor? Okay. The strategy of the document and of the proposal and of the recommendation, if we can summarize the strategy, is decarbonize energy production, relying on the increasing use of low-carbon energy sources, including both sustainable and renewable energy, in a mix that varies from one country to another. The focus here was in renewable energies. The focus of the document is to enhance the contribution of renewable energy for its rapid deployment and long-term possibilities. Renewable energy and decarbonized energy future involves several aspects, but of course encompass sources like solar, wind, and hydropower, and is key in our pursuit of a sustainable energy future. Renewable sources are characterized by the abundance and reduced environment impact. Renewable sources are very abundant, not easy to use, but is abundant. Integration of carbon capture, utilization, and storage technologies to remove CO2 from hard-to-abate sectors is crucial to mitigate their environmental impact during the transition to a fully decarbonized energy future, which is what we are looking for. Additional perspective to the renewable energy landscape include hydrogen, produced through various decarbonized methods that can be used to store and transport energy efficiently, mitigating the variability of renewable sources like wind and solar power, which are not always available. Hydrogen also holds great potential for decarbonizing sectors like transportation and heavy industry. Also, biofuels derived from organic material like crops, algae, and waste biomass provide a renewable and low-carbon alternative to fossil fuel, ready to use. An increased use of biofuels should move to the utilization of second and third generations, involving less competition with food and more use on non-alimentary source of carbon. If you have a large country like Brazil, that's not a problem, but if you have a smaller country, that might be a problem. Ocean energy sources, including tidal, wave, and ocean thermal energy, should also be considered to generate electricity. Perspectives on energy transition pathways. Hydrogen, biofuels, and ocean energy contribute to diversifying the energy mix, which is very important, and achieving a more sustainable and resilient future. Batteries complement traditional renewable sources, offering storage, transportation, and base low power generation solutions, which is very important, because if you start using solar energy, for instance, and you put solar energy into the grid, you count on that energy. But the demand at one point cannot be attained by solar energy because it's at night. So you have to jump into the grid and provide energy. And the way we can do that now is using fossil fuel, which we are saying that we should avoid using. So batteries can help us in this challenge. Renewable energy sources are more evenly distributed globally, which is good, because it helps reduce dependence on a few energy exporting countries, enhancing energy security, and reducing geopolitical tensions. The renewable energy sector has emerged as a source of employment opportunities, from the manufacturing and installation of energy systems to the ongoing maintenance, research, and development. So we are talking about changing the way we generate and use energy. So we have opportunity to include people, to educate people, to share these opportunities with a broad spectrum of the world population. including marginalized communities in the transition process, ensures that employment benefits are equitably shared, enhancing social acceptance and support for the initiatives. It's not easy to do that. You have to educate, you have to be transparent, you have to talk, you have to bring people together to be part of this transformation. Continuing the transition pathways, the document emphasizes social considerations in the energy transition, ensuring that everyone has access to sustainable, clean, affordable, and reliable energy, addressing the persisting issue of energy poverty in many parts of the world. Community-owned renewable energy projects enable residents to have a stake in their energy production and share the benefits of that. Diversifying the energy mix, enhance economic resilience by reducing the impact of global energy market fluctuations. Political and regulatory obstacles need to be addressed to avoid hindering the energy transition. That's a major issue that we are not well prepared for that. Public outreach, education, and stakeholders' engagement are needed to properly address social acceptance and gain community support to our projects. Many challenges, and we were able in the document to summarize some of the challenges. Carbon capture, utilization, and storage are crucial for minimizing the CO2 emissions from fossil fuels as we move away from these sources towards a fully decarbonized energy future. Alternatives to coal in iron and steel production must be sought, mainly through coke production process, and some other points raised in the documents. Energy storage technology like batteries, supercapacitors, water, electrolyzers for green hydrogen generation, compressed air, energy storage need to be affordable for adoption of renewable generation technologies, such as solar and wind. Geothermal energy has a large potential. We document mention inland and offshore geothermal energy has a large potential and could represent a valuable source for generation electricity on demand, what I mentioned before, to be used when the wind speed is not strong and the sunshine is absent. Low and zero carbon fuel to power transportation sources, such as aviation, shipping, and long-distance land transport of goods by trucks and trains should also be addressed. Here is a huge opportunity to produce synthesized fuels. In our final remarks, we stress that energy transition is driven by the need and the will to address climate change. Also to enhance energy security, to create economic opportunities, and to yield a social and environmental justice. While challenges do exist, the benefits of the energy transition far outweigh the obstacles, offering a pathway to a sustainable and resilient future. To ensure the success of energy transition, it is important to establish an ongoing international dialogue that facilitates regular updates and the sharing of best practices among nations. Again, this is not easy because we have been very good in competing among ourselves. But we are talking here about something that is different. We should give our hands to move forward. The collaborative approach should not only focus on technological innovation, but also prioritize harmonizing regulations and fostering global partnership that leverage collective strength. We are not talking about single country strength, but collective strength. I should once again acknowledge the great effort to all the members that contributed to this document. Special thanks for those scientists, specialists mentioned here. They were very tolerant. They were sometimes very clear and very open-minded in making their contributions. At the end, I mentioned Professor Watanabe, Professor Meneghini, Professor Watanabe from COPI, Professor Meneghini from USP, and Professor Lozano from Federal University of Santa Catarina, which they were very important in putting things together. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Prata. I now call for the floor Patricia Boza, Professor Patricia Boza, who was the leader of the Task Force number 4, Health Challenge. Patricia, please.
Good morning. So I'd like to start by thanking you all for the inputs and collaborative efforts to bring together this document. I was coordinating the task force on health challenges. This started How can I? Hã?
A flechinha verde.
No. Ah. No. Now I got it. So I'd like to start to thank you all for the contributions. As mentioned by the other groups, we started in the first draft by working together in a group of 10 scientists with very diverse backgrounds, from basic to applied science, to build on the draft that after several rounds of work and contributions and very helpful and critical, but very constructive inputs, we come together to this part with recommendations, and our central team in this effort in terms of health challenges was in quality, equity, access, preparedness for epidemics and for the challenge of climate change. It's important also to mention that this document builds on the previous documents from the S20. So as mentioned early on during this overture, those documents is a continuum, and we want to go for, and we have quite a challenge ahead as we have a very limited time frame to achieve the 2030 agenda for the Sustainable Development Goals. So in this effort, we had recommendations to address global health challenges, have been focusing on promoting health equity, access, enhancing prevention and preparedness, advancing digital health transformation, prioritizing mental health, and tackling the health impacts of climate and environmental changes. As you can already make clear, this task force is very well integrated to the other task forces to combine efforts to attain the challenges, and also very much integrated with the last task force that will be shown by Ruben Olivan on social justice. So the proposed recommendations aim to develop a more equitable, sustainable, and resilient health systems by emphasizing preventive health care and health lifestyles, particularly with a special attention to vulnerable communities. The achievement of universal health coverage is central to attain these challenges, with emphasis on equity, community involvement, and participation. And we believe that by focusing on universal health coverage, that brings the potential to drive improvements in various aspects of health, spanning from mental health, infectious and non-communicable diseases, managing both child health as well as the challenges of the aging population. To promote global health equity, sharing resources and technologies is key to attain these goals, and promote while fostering international solidarity and research capacity building. So education and research capacity building is essential to attain these aspects. Effective communication strategies are necessary to be developed and disseminating health information, countering disinformation, and conducting health campaigns. Challenges encompassing various dimensions of health and social determinants must be addressed, including age and socioeconomic, as well as cultural background and the intersectional factors. In addition, addressing the very complex interactions between climate change, environmental factors, health, utilizing a One Health approach, recognizing the interdependency between health of people, animals, and the ecosystems. So we developed this task force by working in 4 big areas that, again, they are very well interconnected. The first one on prevention, preparedness, access, and sustainability, expand inclusive digital health services and technological innovations, bridging the gap in mental health, and at least climate and environmental change, food and water securities, and health impacts. So to attain this prevention and preparedness, early intervention, equitable access to resources are fundamental, and long-term sustainability is very key on working on prevention, may give this aspect of long-term sustainability. To attain that, we've developed a number of recommendations, including ensure global access to essential vaccines, medicines, and diagnostic tools for all, promote sustainable local and regional production through research capacity building, knowledge sharing, and technology transfer. And keeping in mind the importance of streamline regulatory process and develop efficient policies to achieve equitable access and strength for pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response efforts worldwide. So to strengthen global surveillance through open science and information sharing for early detection of health emergencies and public health events of international concerns. To address the challenges of antimicrobial resistance by the urgent development of new antibiotics and supporting alternative solutions, including vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, and other evolving methods, while promoting a rational use of antibiotics in people and animals worldwide, and establishing health campaigns for effective communication and dissemination of information. And that's very important since during pandemics, we saw quite important a number of disinformation that was very detrimental to the efforts to control pandemics. Enhance preventive health care, especially in communities with non-vulnerabilities, as key aspect to reduce the risk of non-communicable diseases at affordable healthcare costs. Foster collaboration in research, development, and technology to improve diagnostics, prevention, and treatment of cancer, mostly cancers that are preventable through vaccines, include those cancers caused by infections such as HPV and H. pylori. Invest in research for treatments for communicable and non-communicable diseases, and that's quite an important aspect, not only to applied research, but invest on basic research to support effective, cost-effective treatments. Develop policies to promote health lifestyles, including physical activity and quality nutrition, to address issues such as the epidemic of obesity, especially in the children, tobacco, alcohol abuse, ultra-processed food, and sugar-sweetened beverages. So the other aspect is to expand inclusive digital health services and technological innovations, and that's also with the advances of artificial intelligence, but keeping a special view on democratic digital health and technological transformations for supporting strong and resilient universal health systems. So big data can and are be using as a powerful tool to investigate social inequities. We saw that during pandemics, how the open source and large groups to analyze data to show how races, vulnerability played an important role during pandemic, and how the access to health were not equally distributed, and mortality and the pandemic was very different according to regions and populations. Health data should be accessible to trusted partners, including public health academics, practitioners, to ensure the right questions are asked and public available for large databases. There is a need to ensure equitable access to digital health services, technologies, and innovations globally. Again, education play an important, and capacity building play an important role here. So promote inclusive digital health transformation is crucial for supporting the strong universal health system, incorporate telemedicine to expand healthcare to remote areas and to hard-to-reach areas is very important. Improve the collection and use of data to support globally integrated surveillance and response systems, and helping in the planning of the health systems. Invest in AI research for health that upholds the equity principles underpinning the UHC, keeping in mind all the concerns that Virgilio already mentioned on not making it to even enhance inequalities. Integrate data to connect death, birth registries, inpatients, and outpatients data. So linking health data with social data is very powerful to comprehend and to understand value to the population health studies by providing large sample size, and promote more equitable access to well-established health technologies worldwide. One point that we have as a very important point in our health challenge document is to bring bridging the gap in mental health. Mental health is a very important issue, but frequently very neglected issue, and it still runs with lots of stigma. So around 5% of working age population struggles with severe mental health conditions, while even an additional 15% are affected by more common mental disorders. Important to mention that this is mostly observed in low and middle income countries, very highly noted in low and middle income countries. It's estimated that 1 in 2 individuals will experience mental ill health at some point in their lives, impacting their well-being, their employment prospects, productivity, and wages. Approximately half of adults that develop mental illness, they will develop that during the childhood, so that's so important to work on prevention. And despite the large burden of mental ill that is imposed, it's still quite neglected. So making mental health a priority is one aspect of most importance. And it's very important to keep in mind that this is a vicious cycle where poverty and mental illness, they feed them in a very vicious cycle. So it's very important to tackle and vulnerable groups, particularly the ones that are affected by intersectional factors like violence, poverty, loneliness, and social exclusion. Mental health care should be a priority, especially for young and vulnerable groups. Global threats to mental health today, they include also not only the economic and social inequalities, but also health emergencies, humanitarian emergencies, and the climate crisis. So integrating mental health in the preventive primary care is essential. So the recommendations in this area is to invest in prevention programs, mainly at school, and to adopt evidence-based intervention focused on children and adolescents, ensure appropriate measures to minimize and mitigate family and domestic violence, address the use of alcohol and other drugs as a priority health issue, invest in primary care in the area of mental health, develop long-term support for management of older patients, and ensure ethical technology developments to promote and to decrease inequity. So move on to our last part on the health challenges, and as have been well discussed in the previous groups, climate and environmental change, food and water security, and health impacts are an enormous challenge that we have ahead. These factors, they affect agriculture production, food prices, access to water and air quality, with, again, low and middle income countries and vulnerable groups suffering the most. In addition, rising global temperatures and unpredictable weather patterns create conditions that favor the spread of zoonotic disease and arbovirus diseases. We've seen quite, and the ones that were here in March, we were under a dengue outbreak with very increased number of cases, very different from other years. Dengue cases remained high for months, and that's why, again, things that we see in the climate change, the differences and patterns of arbovirus disease, and leading to a high number of countries being affected. So as a recommendation, G20 nations should establish a central climate and health fund for coordinate global resources, support vulnerable populations during extreme conditions, and develop climate-resilient health systems to better prepare for climate-related diseases. In Brazil, over the last month, we have unprecedented climate-related disaster from droughts in the Amazon that leads here. We can see the large number of animals that died during this droughts. Also, all the population that relies on the river to move and to receive health support were in very bad conditions. Again, also, we are currently seeing aspects related to wildfire in the Cerrado, in Pantanal, with large areas being achieved. And the flood, unprecedented flood that we saw in the south of the country, that has, and that's not restricted to Brazil, that's just some examples, but worldwide we are seeing those changes in patterns leading to quite a number of health outcomes. Again, mental health illness is very affected by climate change, zoonoses, diseases of allergic diseases and immunological diseases, and cancer as well. Another aspect is pollution. That's a quite important point that we need to keep high attention. That relates to air quality. That's very important and also related to climate change, but also to chemical exposure that contaminate the water, like in the case of mercury exposure with very high consequences for child development. So to finish up, the recommendations in this area is to integrate climate across all key health working group priority areas and identify opportunities for health co-benefits in developing climate policies. investigate the interplay between socioeconomic factors, environmental hazards, including climate and environmental changes, address climate change impacts on zoonotic diseases and arbovirus disease, especially in terms of global surveillance, optimize land use, take active measures to ensure food and water safety and security, ban the use of mercury in illegal gold mining, ban the use of persistent organic pollutants, drastically reduce the use of plastics, plan healthcare and assistance to population, especially the vulnerable ones, considering extreme conditions and environmental catastrophes, and mobilize financing to support climate and health efforts, fulfilling existing commitments, and hence to support to LMIC countries, considering creating a central climate and health fund to align global priorities for resource allocation and research. So I'd like to thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Patricia. And now I call to the floor Professor Ruben Olive, who is going to tell us a summary on the Social Justice Task Force number 5. Ruben, please, the floor is yours. He was the coordinator for this task force.
Although social justice was a separate task force, in a sense, it permeates all the other task force which presented here. And for us, for the Brazilian Academy of Science, social justice is a central concern, as you probably noticed in documents. So, as a social scientist, I'm not going to show PowerPoints, but I will try to summarize some of our findings. Despite extraordinary technological progress attained through the contributions of science, the world continues to be afflicted by glaring inequalities and social disparities. Poverty remains a scourge that afflicts vast segments of global populations. Large human contingents are facing food deprivation, lacking shelter, being devoid of medical care, and deprived of access to clean water and basic sanitation. There is a dismantling of jobs and the creation of new ones at an unprecedented fast pace caused by digitalization, artificial intelligence, and robotization. Additionally, the changing job market presents challenges for retraining the workforce, particularly in poorer countries. While poverty and inequality can exist independently, they are frequently intertwined, creating a complex social landscape. Among the Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations, eliminating poverty in all its forms is the first listed. Eradicating hunger, promoting health and well-being, and ensuring access to clean water and sanitation, besides quality education and gender equality, are some of the crucial conditions for achieving this goal. However, the core issue is not resource scarcity, but rather its unequal distribution. Moreover, poverty looks different all over the world. While some in need starve, others struggle with obesity through the unavailability of healthy nutrients, rich foods, and poor education. Even if due to globalization and sustained international economic exchange, in the last decades the economic gaps between countries have decreased, income inequality between and within countries remain a matter of concern. The pivotal path to be pursued requires reducing internal and external socioeconomic disparities. To promote social inclusion and cultural diversity, the people should be at the center of all development policies, and nobody should be left behind. It is therefore essential to develop a perspective of rights and guarantees that considers the value of developing institutions and to allocate the resources necessary to ensure full economic, social, cultural, and environmental rights. I'm now going to the perspectives of the roles of science in this process. One of the primary purposes of science is to generate knowledge and make discoveries that enhance social, environmental, and human well-being. Therefore, pursuing scientific advances with ethical considerations and a consciousness of their consequences is crucial. Harnessing the power of science is not only a pathway, but a responsibility in the quest to end poverty, reduce inequality, and promote inclusion. So societies can create a more equitable and sustainable future through technological innovation, data-driven policies, and advancements in various scientific fields. Through the integration of scientific knowledge and development strategies, we can address the root causes of poverty and exclusions, paving the way for a world where everyone can thrive and contribute to the betterment of humanity. Science, by its very nature, is a social practice. Social, natural, and life sciences can inform strategies to decrease discriminatory practice and promote social justice. Understanding human behavior allows for the development of interventions that challenges stereotypes, biases, and unfair structural barriers, fostering a more just society. By applying scientific insights into human behavior, communities can work toward the breaking down social norms perpetuating inequality. To resolve these issues, given their complexities, it is crucial to promote interdisciplinarity alongside the collaborative work of local communities. Reducing inequality, in addition to being an ethical imperative, is a decisive condition for effectively enriching the human resources available for the advancement of society. Social justice constitutes a powerful antidote to the fight against violence, intolerance, and the development of significant social divides that weaken the trust levels and degrees of solidarity that constitute the social fabric of life. Digital economy and social justice. The digitalization of economies and societies is an ongoing global phenomenon with significant implications that will benefit from insights of all branches of science. These issues include the impact of digital transformation on employment and the necessary skills and information that should be provided through education and the development of economic strategies and policies. It is necessary to explore how access to technology, digital skills, and resources may either exacerbate or alleviate existing inequalities. Bridging the digital divide is crucial, as it involves expanding infrastructure for universal internet access and enhancing digital literacy to ensure all segments of society benefit from digital advancements. Addressing these issues can help formulate inclusive and equitable approaches to digital development. By actively engaging with these topics and leveraging insights from the social science and humanities, countries can effectively navigate the complexities of digital transformation and contribute to a just, sustainable digital development globally. It is crucial to address the problem of science-related disinformation, understand its various impacts, and identify effectively measures to counter it. The detrimental effects of disinformation on digital media have profoundly impacted society and its governance. Building national, regional, and global strategies to combat disinformation needs the involvement of the scientific and academic communities and active participation from civil society. The dissemination of false information concerning scientific matters can lead to adverse consequences, as was the case for the alleged efficacy of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin for treating COVID-19. The G20 countries are well positioned to foster collaborations in global initiatives focused on combating disinformation and health sciences. Scientific literacy plays a crucial role in enabling all individuals to comprehend and engage with future scientific advancements. To tackle the complexities of sustainable development, it is essential for governments and citizens alike to cultivate scientific literacy and awareness of how science works as a self-correcting process and not static facts. Enhancing scientific literacy is particularly important to better equip societies to meet future technological tasks. Today's challenges surpass the confines of traditional disciplines and encompass a wide range of scientific domains, spanning research, knowledge, advancements, and their practical implementation. By fostering scientific literacy, we can promote an environment where everyone is equipped to understand and actively participate in addressing the multifaceted challenges of time. Cooperation among all sciences, as well as between science and society, can lead to a first, promoting education, social equality, and fair treatment for all, by abolishing all forms of unjust discrimination and asserting the fundamental moral equality of citizens. 2, focusing on health to assure well-being for all demographic data. 3, transitioning to sustainable energy and industry practices to reduce carbon emissions. 4, ensuring sustainability in food production, land use, water management, and ocean health. 5, developing sustainable cities and communities that are just and resilient. And 6, harnessing the digital revolution for sustainable development. By working together, these transformations can pave the way achieving the sustained development goals outlined in the 2030 agenda. And finally, final remarks. The members of the G20, representing the world's 20 largest economies, play a central role in the fight against poverty and tackling inequalities. Governments need to consider the array of mechanisms to reduce inequalities and promote social justice, just as the revision of tax structures, the establishment of cash transfers, and fair governance of firms. Policies for combating all forms of unjust discriminations are also crucial for building a more equitable society. In this sense, the members of G20 could create a working group on social justice to propose plans and concrete actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kubin. And before we leave for lunch, I have some announcements. Vitor is going to be not Professor Vitor from Argentina, Vitor from Brazil. He's going to be downstairs and he's going to give each one of us in here the voucher for the lunch. The lunch is going to be in this building downstairs, as some of you were there yesterday, the others weren't, so it's going to be on the main floor, okay? And since we have some delay, I think we should try, if possible, get together 1:45. If not, we'll be delayed because we are going to be in this hotel, and what we have at night is going to be another music, entertainment, cocktails, and dinner. So I don't think we have other appointments. It doesn't matter to be a little bit delayed. I apologize for that, and we'll see you all pretty soon. Thank you.